أشهد أن محمد رسول الله.
Brothers, Jazakumullah khair for giving your time, especially the Imaam, the trustees and the management, for giving me this opportunity, inshallah, being with you here today, inshallah, in this blessed place, in this masjid. Also to thank our young brother Zakaria, for initiating this program and supporting this, inshallah. What's my subject today? What's my subject?
Gang today.
Sorry?
Gang today, gone tomorrow.
Gang today, gone tomorrow. Yeah, so we're focusing on gang-related issues. Firstly, a question. Yeah, because how we discuss that issue depends on who's here. Yeah, so very important in terms of any brothers, in terms of involved in gang life. I'm assuming the brothers who are in the masjid are not really involved in that kind of lifestyle, yeah, or have been in the past, but not now. So, speaking about some of those issues, the way we would speak to brothers who are on roads or who are in gangs and so on, will be slightly different from the brothers who have never been in that lifestyle or have and have changed, are in the masjid today and so on. So any brothers on roads, any brothers gangsters here? We don't want to say if you are. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, brothers are pointing. Yeah. Okay, anyway, focus firstly is young brothers here today. So let's just re-emphasize ourselves about our roles, our responsibilities as Muslims, as youngsters. What do you think your role and responsibility is as youngsters? Do you have a role? Do you have a responsibility? What is a youngster in Islam? What's an adult in Islam? Yeah. What do you say? So I'm asking a question there. Yeah. What's your role and responsibility?
Accountable for your actions.
You're accountable for your actions. When do you become an adult in Islam? 40? Yeah? 40 you become at your peak. Yeah? But when do you become an adult? 13, 14. When you reach puberty, Islamically, you're an adult. Yes, you're a youngster, but you're also an adult. And whatever is an obligation in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everybody else is an obligation for you. Be that salah, be that fasting in the month of Ramadan, be that hajj and so on. Even though you are a youngster. Very, very important. And you will be accountable for all of those actions on the day of judgment in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, very important. We believe, of course, we have yaqeen concerning the day of judgment. So we know that's going to happen as Muslims, pillars of Iman, and we know we'll be accountable and we'll be questioned about this. And as an adult, when I reach 13, 14 or 15 max, I should know I am obligated to do those actions that Allah Ta'ala has obligated me to do, and I will be in sin if I fall into the haram. So that's very important to reflect on. The second thing is, brother mentioned, yeah, we are responsible as youngsters. In fact, there's a great responsibility on us as youngsters in Islam. Now, what's the word for youth or youngsters? Yeah, in Arabic. Wali Shabab. What's another one? Yeah, comes in Surah Al-Kahf. Yeah, Shab is one, Shabab is a plural. Then you have Fata, so one, and another, the plural of that is Al-Fitya. So Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Al-Kahf, what does Allah Ta'ala say? Yeah, نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ نَبَأَهُمْ بِالْحَقِّ. We will relate to you, O Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the story of those in truth. Yeah, and then what does Allah Ta'ala say? إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ وَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى. They were fitya, youngsters, who believed in their Lord, and thus we increased them in guidance. Very interestingly, Ibn Kathir rahimahullah mentions something in the tafsir of this ayah. So look it up. And he says the people who accepted Islam and followed the Prophet ﷺ mostly were youngsters and youth. Yeah? Today, what's the focus? Today the focus is, we think deen is for the elderly. They'll come to the masjid and so on. And that we have no responsibility as youngsters and youth. And I can be on the streets or do haram. Yeah? Of course, there's a lot of social issues. We can blame elders, we can blame youngsters. In reality, everybody is to blame. Whether it be our elders, our parents, ourselves, society. Of course, the first blame should come on ourselves, because on Yawm al-Qiyamah, you'll be standing before Allah Ta'ala on your own. You won't be able to say my dad, my mum, society, my friends, my peers, and so on. You will have no that option. You will have to blame yourself. And everybody will be saying nafsi, 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 and so on. But the point being, Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, he says, many of those who follow the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca and accepted Islam were youngsters. Name me some youngsters who we know of from the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. So Ali was very young in Mecca. He was around 10 and so on when he accepted Islam. Radiallahu anhu. Yeah, very important as well. At that young age when people weren't really accepting, and he said, O Messenger of Allah, I would support you and be with you. Yeah. So 10-year-old boys, 10, 11. Yeah. Don't think you don't have a role and responsibility in your schools too, or in your society. Everybody has a role and responsibility. Very, very important. And sometimes when we speak to youngsters, the way we speak to them as well, we give them a level of immaturity. Oh, you're only 10, you're only 11, like you have no role and responsibility concerning being a Muslim and so on. But you do. Yeah, who else? Anas ibn Malik. Yeah, as a youngster, looked after the Prophet ﷺ, served the Prophet for 10 years in his house in Medina. But famous ones like Umar. Umar was in his 20s when he accepted Islam. Then of course you have some very, very famous young ones like Abdullah bin Umar, Abdullah bin Abbas, Usama bin Zayd, Abdullah bin Zubair, and others. Yeah, and of course from the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, Aisha was young, Hafsa was young, and so on. So they played a part in society and were youth and youngsters. And that's why the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he says, اغتنم خمسا قبل خمس. Benefit from 5 things before you are able to benefit from those 5 things. And one of those 5 things is shababak. The term shabab now comes in. Yeah, the plural of shab. Shababak qabla haramik. Your youth before your old age comes to you. Also, the very famous hadith, the Prophet spoke about 7 types of people that will be under the shade of Allah's arsh on the day of judgment, when there will be no shade except the shade that Allah Ta'ala provides. We mentioned earlier on, we have yaqeen concerning our beliefs. The Muslim doesn't doubt. We don't ask ourselves, or question ourselves, will there be a Yawm al-Qiyamah? Shak or doubt, what does it do? It actually nullifies your faith. Is there an Allah? Is there angels? Is there this? Is there that? Is the Quran the word of Allah Ta'ala, and so on? When we start doubting, it's actually nullifying our Islam or faith and so on. Yeah, so from the pillars of Iman is we believe concerning the day of judgment. Yawm al-Qiyamah will be established. And of course, whenever you find many, many names for the same thing, shows you the magnitude of that thing. Allah Ta'ala has many beautiful names. Even the Prophet had many names. Muhammad, Ahmad, Mustafa, and so on. Allah Ta'ala has many beautiful names. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Malik, and so on. The same for Yawm al-Qiyamah. Same for Surah Al-Fatiha. Same for Yawm al-Qiyamah. What are the names for Yawm al-Qiyamah? Yeah? So Yawm al-Qiyamah is one. What does that mean? And each name has a meaning behind it. Even though it's speaking about the same thing, but at the same time, it gives you another deeper kind of like angle onto that day. So Yawm al-Qiyamah, yeah, what do you call when you're in prayer, standing position? You call it Qiyam, because you're standing. That's when you'll be standing in front of Allah Jalla wa Ala on the day of judgment. Then there is what? Yeah, what do you call it when we're coming out of the grave? Yawm al-Ba'th, and that's the resurrection. Yeah, when you come out of your graves. There's also Yawm al-Hasra, the day of regret. People will be regretting what they've left behind in terms of good deeds that they could do, and regretting the haram they did in the life that they lived in. Yawm al-Hasra, and many, many other names. Yeah, Yawm al-Hisab. What does that mean? It's accountability and reckoning from Allah Jalla wa Ala, and so on and so on. Yeah, so we have yaqeen concerning this, and the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said about this, on that day, the day of judgment, people will be resurrected naked and circumcised. You won't be worried. Yeah, people like the opposite gender. Yeah, men like, boys like girls. Yeah, and that's why Aisha said, won't people be looking at one another and there'll be naked state? The Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the day will be much greater than that. For somebody to be concerned about looking at the opposite gender or looking at the nakedness of another person. Yeah, but the Prophet also mentioned the sun will be close the distance of a mile to us, and people will be sweating. Yeah, And the sweats will be according to the level of their sins. So somebody, the sweat will be up to their ankles or knees or their middle. And some will be drowning in their sweat because of the sins they have committed. Yawm al-Qiyamah. Yaqeen. We have certainty about this. But while this is going on, 7 types of people will be under the shade of Allah's Arsh on that day, when there will be no shade except the shade that Allah Ta'ala provides. And one of those is you brothers here and sisters. Youngsters, shabun nasha'a fi ibadatillahi ta'ala. A youngster who has nurtured, has been cultivated under the worship of Allah Ta'ala from a young age until he or she becomes old and returns to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So that's a benefit of being a youngster but starting worshipping Allah Ta'ala and following the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ from a young age. So we understand from this there is responsibility and accountability. We shouldn't say like others, you're just 18 years old, you're not 21 yet, wait till you're 21, or wait till you're 40, or wait till you're 30, enjoy yourself, do what you want to do. No. We know as Muslims, and we have yaqeen, that there is a Yawm al-Qiyamah, and I will be accountable for my deeds even if I'm 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, and so on. And that moves us now to our discussion of today. Which, what was the title again? Gang today, gone tomorrow. Yeah? And issues related or connected to some of those issues related to that gang life that we want to focus on and discuss today. So very, very important. Number one, if I was to say, look, what are the normal things a brother or a youngster would be involved in? Yeah, in gang life. What would you say? Yeah, give me one as a starter. Yeah? So drugs would probably be the most kind of like prevalent thing. So let's focus on that for a moment. And remember, there's 2 scenarios to this. One scenario is the guy who takes drugs himself or herself. Yeah? I say herself because I don't know if you read the papers last week. South London, or this week in South London, they arrested a gang of youngsters, youngest 14, on mopeds, robbing people from their phones and stuff. And one of the main leaders was a girl. She's about 15 or 16. Yeah? So you have girls, boys in that lifestyle. So the brother mentioned drugs. So one aspect is us taking drugs ourselves. So what would you say to that? Good, bad, haram, halal? Haram. What would you say are drugs?
Anything which befogs the mind, like intoxicates you.
Good. So anything that intoxicates your mind, yeah, that kind of like takes it from a normal state and a natural state to an abnormal state. Remember, you know, in America, yeah, we joke, who's a pharmacist here? Any pharmacists? We say you're legal drug dealers. Yeah? So you're allowed to sell drugs. Yeah, but that's another type of drug. That's medicine. That takes you from abnormal or sick state to a normal state. Yeah? Here, you're normal and a person takes drug, yeah, or drugs, and then becomes abnormal, or from the normal state to an abnormal state. So, what type of drugs are there?
Cannabis.
Yeah, cannabis, heroin. So now cannabis, it's like cigarettes today. Kids 15, 14 smoke cannabis like cigarettes, like everybody is smoking cannabis. It's not even cannabis of the old. Yeah, what they put into it, and that's why they'll have research and say, look, people are going crazy. And I can tell you, a person who's been smoking cannabis for a long time, you can't really be if it's a male, you won't be a man of a household. You can't. Your manhood will go. Rajul, man, you will not be able to be that, because that drug will affect your mind in such a way that you will not be able to run a family. Yeah? So cannabis is an example. The word interest, somebody mentioned intoxication. Yeah? Because the word, what's intoxication in Arabic? Khamar. What's the scarf that a young girl wears in Arabic? Khimar. Yeah? Not hijab. What's hijab then? Yeah? Yeah, so now it's hijab is the scarf. Yeah? This is, look, I wear hijab, she wears a scarf, but she's wearing tight jeans, yeah, whatever. Hijab is the whole attire. The top part is khimar. Why? It covers the head. The word khimar or khamar is a covering. Yeah? So anything that covers your intellect, yeah, and takes it from that normal state to abnormal state is actually khamr and an intoxicant. So many things will come under, yeah, that kind of like definition. So we also have an issue, even though Muslims drink alcohol, but a lot will say, look, I don't drink alcohol. They'll be alright with cannabis, or they'll be alright with other stuff, tobacco, yeah, or sniffing tobacco or cannabis and so on. And they say, look, it's only alcohol that I don't drink, and so on. Of course, that's a wrong understanding of khamr. So that's one aspect of it, a person taking it himself or herself, and that what did the Messenger of Allah say? The person who drinks khamr or takes khamr cannot be what? Have mu'min, cannot be a mu'min. What does it mean? Cannot have perfection of iman. One who's involved in that, the iman has to be very low. And of course, the Messenger of Allah said in a very frightening hadith, he said, mudminu khamrin ka'abdil wathan. Yeah, or kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, the one who is addicted to khamr, intoxicants, yeah, the drugs that we spoke about, is like the worshipper of an idol. So how do you relate to that? So I'm in a shop, and a guy comes in, and there's a woman, yeah, not behind, in front of the counter, and I'm buying something. Another guy comes in, and he says, I've got your stuff for you. And she says, I've got no money. He goes, okay, I'll come to your house and I'll sleep with you. It's going to be a quick one like this. She says, yeah, that's my door, yeah, 2 doors away from that, okay, come in, quick one, I want my stuff. People do anything for it. You become a worshipper of that thing, whatever that thing, drug that you're addicted to. Mudminu khamrin ka'abdil wathan. The one who's addicted to those things will do anything. Becomes like you are a worshipper of that thing. That's khamr in itself when you're taking. Now come to it in terms of our gang life. What about the person who actually provides that to people? What do you do to people? And if it's the main thing a youngster does or gangsters do, then what kind of a person are you? And of course, when we speak about Islam, we're allowed to say good and bad. We need to sometimes be honest with ourselves. You can't be a good Muslim. Don't fool yourself to think, oh, brothers who are not here, to think that you're a good Muslim and you're a drug dealer. You're fooling yourself. You're probably one of the most filthiest, corrupt people on earth. You're not messing up just your life. You're actually messing up families. You're messing up families. You're messing up kids. You're messing up generations. And now what do? Yeah? People who are involved kind of like in dealing with gangs and stuff. Yeah? Most of the operations, yeah, it's like they call them like mules. You use youngsters, and these youngsters who probably won't get stopped on a train or on a bus, and buses might be free and stuff, or cheaper for them, they'll give them the drugs, 10, 11-year-olds, and you go on the countryside and you sell your drugs there. What are you doing to this youngster? Are you a good person? Do you actually think you're a good person? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala view? What's Allah ta'ala's view of you, or Allah's judgment on you, and so on? Because you're not just harming yourself, but you're also harming society. Yeah? So I meet this guy, and he goes, look, you know what? I want some money to buy drugs. It's a non-Muslim guy on the high street. I just said, look, why do you want to do this? I said, you got a wife? I got a wife. I got 2 kids. I said, look, what are you doing to your? And you could see the way he is stressed. So I just started advising him not here, without deen. I just said, look, you know what? You're going to mess up your marriage. You're going to mess up your kid's life. Don't do it. He just started crying. He said, look, you know, your concern has touched me. Because that's what it does. If he is on drugs, he's not going to be able to live in a nice life with his wife and the kids and so on. But the one who's messing it up for him is who? The drug dealer. No. The vast majority of Muslims are in prison for doing things which are haram. yeah, for haram, mostly drugs, yeah, drug dealers. Feltham has a population, a percentage of 20% Muslim. Brixton prison had a percentage of 25% Muslim. Imagine, 4% or 5% of the population, but in a prison system, we're around 20-25%. Yeah, mostly rates to drugs and so on. So, is that person really a good person? Is that person really living up to those standards, the basic standards of being a Muslim from the teachings of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the teachings of the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wasallam? Yeah. So we need to ask ourselves and judge. Side point is though, us as parents, sometimes I say, you know what, subhanallah, we become so corrupt. We have become so corrupt. When a child or a son doesn't work, and he comes home and says, Mom, Dad, here's some money. Mom, Dad, here's some shopping. Sister's getting married. Look, Mom, I'll do the marriage. And we think he's a good guy. I'll do the marriage for you. Yeah, I'll buy you a car. Yeah, to the younger brother, I'll buy you a car. And we turn a blind eye knowing this guy's a drug dealer. Doesn't sleep all night. All day he's sleeping. Wakes up 6-7 p.m. Goes out. No job. Not even signing on. Where is he getting this money? He's a drug dealer. He's a criminal. And we accommodate that within our families, within our communities, and that's a disaster. So we encourage this. Put dawah aside. How will a non-Muslim, and you're from a Muslim area, it's a bit different. If the Muslims are drug dealers in these areas, do you expect for the non-Muslims to respect you, number one? And number two, do you think they're looking to Islam? Their, you could say, judgment of Islam is from you as Muslims. Their judgment of Islam, or the living reality of Islam is, well, look, I live around Muslims, I work around Muslims, my neighbors are Muslims, and you know what? All those drug dealers are Muslims. Must be halal in their religion, must be permissible in their religion, must be okay. Yeah? Or maybe they're allowed to sell it to us. Some people maybe foolishly or wrongfully think, and so on. So that's one issue we come to. What's another issue in terms of gangs? You've got the drug issue. What's another issue? Yeah? And of course with drugs you've got so many issues. You've got the rivalries, you've got the fighting, you've got this. And I can also say, look, just yesterday brother said, look, a brother went to in a masjid. Somebody looked at this brother and he went to him and he said, why are you looking at me? I'm going to punch you at a masjid. So I said, look, let me speak to this guy. In fact, I said to him, I said, look, when I'm next in the masjid, I'm going to speak about this publicly. Yeah? Because this brother, because the other brother, people generally know him. He just comes, prays, quiet, doesn't do anything. He's got his job and so on. Yeah? So for him to do this, it's like he's being an oppressor. Yeah? So a lot of times in the gang issues, we would target gangs, or we would target others that are weaker than us. We're not really those bad gangsters. Yeah? So I wanted to tell this guy, I said, look, okay, let me speak to him when I see him next. I want to tell him, look, I can get you a gangster. You can talk to another gangster like this. I can make him look at you, and then you talk to him like this, and see his response. But you're not really bad enough for that. You want to trouble a Muslim who's humble and be arrogant and think you're a bad boy, but you're not. So very, very important, reflect on this. But in terms of those gang issues and gang rivalries and so on, another disaster. Yeah. So recently, this area, a brother said, so how far is the Mile End from here? Yeah. What's that road? Burdett Lane? Yeah, Burdett Road. Okay, so one brother from that area was saying there was a problem between Somali youngsters and Bukhari youngsters. And I find this, look, as Muslims, how foolish can we get and be? Firstly, just from an ethnic perspective. Yeah, I'm a bit kind of like hardcore in this. The Muslim community has racism. Yeah, the deen doesn't. Yeah, the Muslim community has those issues. But how far and how long will we keep and away and turning from Quran and Sunnah? How far? How often? Do we hear those ayats? Do we hear about the Prophet and the Sahaba? what do we still proud ourselves by? See, I can take any culture, alhamdulillah, every culture has positives, but I can take any culture identity and bring it out, the filth in that. No identity or culture has 100% goodness. The goodness lies in our deen and sunnah. When we start being proud of something other than that, we can't, because it's going to have shortcomings and faults. What we pride ourselves with is the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala gave us Quran and the sunnah. In that, there is no scope for you looking down at another person based upon his race or culture or identity. You don't look down on another person. Yeah? The guidance is clear from Quran and Sunnah. And at the same time, the emphasis of what? وَاعْتَصِبُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold on together to the rope of Allah Ta'ala. Do not be divided. Yeah? Hold on together to the rope of Allah Ta'ala and do not be divided. The famous hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. Al-Muslimu akhul Muslim. You have the guidance and the teachings of the book of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So you got the drugs, you got the gangs, you got the war, you got the fighting, and you got pimping. How can a Muslim be a pimp? How can a Muslim be having women, sleeping with those women, passing on those women, making money from those things? Where is that faith or iman in Allah Ta'ala concerning accountability? So we mentioned a person does sin himself. Bad. That in itself is bad enough. But now you want to spread that onto others and misuse others? How bad is that? So the kind of like negativity of it multiplies. So these are some of the issues, brothers, that we youngsters need to focus on. The theme was gang today, gone tomorrow. Why? You can be a gangster today. Fine. For what though? You can be a gangster today. For what? And what's tomorrow? Tomorrow is death. Your return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And do you think those people are involved in dunya lifestyles? Dunya lifestyles. They're actually happy with all of those things? Yeah? Do you think they are happy with those things? Look at the Hollywood industry. Look at this famous kind of like, what was a famous comedian? He was an actor, started off his career as a comedian, 3-4 years ago possibly, committed suicide. Richard Pryor was a comedian. You watch his movies and you're laughing. Richard Pryor contemplated. Should not be the way of the believer. And if we think as a prophet, okay, yeah, alternatives like might be employment, might be counseling, might be you have a business, you have a work, so you say, look, come and work for me, yeah. At the same time, while he's working with you, he's praying his salah with you, or you encourage him to pray salah. Yeah, Muslims have a lot of businesses. Are we accommodating those youngsters? And are we being patient with those youngsters? What else can we do? So these are some, yeah. But really, what you or we need to do as a community, sit down and ask ourselves, what can we do, and come up with solutions and ideas. Because you know why? Wallahi, very few of us, very few, are not affected by this. Yeah, I'm sure you will agree with me. Every family member has someone who's in that lifestyle. Every family member would have one person. He's a drug dealer, he's on drugs, he's doing haram. We're all affected. Yeah? If we don't bring about solutions, yeah, we'll let the problem escalate. With that, you brothers setting up this dawah initiatives, the monthly circle, other guys that you might do, that's actually inspires me. Sometimes, yeah, I wanted to phone one brother earlier on the way driving. I said, look, there's so much going on in the world, so much negativity, and I just wanted to kind of like get advice from him, because sometimes you need motivation, we need motivation. So coming here, it's a motivation. Alhamdulillah, young brothers prayed in the masjid, didn't have to come, cold outside, but they've come, prayed in the masjid, yeah, had a little discussion. So that acts like an inspiration for me. So alhamdulillah, that's why I'm here. Otherwise, nothing much. All that I've said, you brothers already know it and understand it. So brother's point in terms of pride, and you could say a lot. And maybe that should have been kind of like a point I should have focused on. Yeah? Because it's all to do with show. Yeah? I want to be in that position and that lifestyle because I want to show to others how tough I am, how much money I have, how much women I have, and so on. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about this? Yeah? Even referring to death, attaching it to death. Surah Al-Imran. كل نفس ذائقة الموت وإنما توفون أجوركم يوم القيامة فمن زحزح عن النار وادخل الجنة فقد فاز. What does Allah say at the end? وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. Deception. Yeah? Every soul will taste death. You'll be recompensed for the deeds that you do. The one who saved from hellfire and enters into paradise has the greatest achievement. At the end, this life is just an allurement. Yeah? So everything is an illusion. Don't think even the people that you see are rich and famous are happy. Yeah? We had this a few years ago. Jay-Z comes out, yeah, CCTV footage in a lift. He has a fight with his wife. They come out the lift, they're smiling. That's what the world sees. Yeah? That's how they make their money. But are they actually deep down happy? How can you be happy and your wife's dancing naked to everybody? How can you be happy? Come on. Yeah? So there is no happiness in their lifestyle. But that's what we want to achieve, thinking that kind of like lifestyle or that fame and that money connected to that pride is going to make me happy. No. The Messenger of Allah, what did he say? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Firstly, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam himself, in his character, who you could say had a right to be proud, was the most humblest of people. Yeah, very important. We read about the character of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Yeah, reading hadith, a young girl came and she grabbed the Prophet's hand and said, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, follow me." Yeah, she's pulling the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Showed him something. The Prophet followed. He passes by. Yeah, do we give salam to children? The children must give me salam. I don't give kids salam. Yeah, where's my seat in the house? Get off my seat. Yeah, we think this is good. In fact, sometimes we teach our children those things which are opposing the sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Yeah, you're in my seat. What are you doing? Get off. You give me salam. I don't give you salam. The Prophet used to give salam to children and stroke their head, and so on. Yeah. So a man, his dress code. What was his dress code? What would the Prophet ﷺ wear? Yeah. Prophet wears Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wherever he finds. Wherever he finds Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he wears it. Yeah. So there's no, I don't know, some of you brothers, certain kind of like groups, yeah, it becomes like a cult. Yeah. So they expect you to dress in one particular way. Yeah. You got like Muhajirun brothers had one dress code. Salafi brothers have one dress code. Yeah, they even talk one way, walk one way. That becomes a cult. Yeah, the Prophet ﷺ dressed in a way, whatever he's available, he dresses it because he ﷺ was humble. So from his characteristics was at-tawadu, humility and humbleness, and that is the best and the greatest of Allah Ta'ala's creation. Nobody's been honored from Allah Jalla wa Ala like the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So if somebody had a right to pride, it would have been the Prophet, but he's humble. So what about anybody else? How can anybody else have that image or pride or arrogance? And what did the Prophet say? لا يدخل الجنة. That person will not enter Jannah. من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. That person will not enter Jannah, the one in whose heart is a small or an atom's amount of kibr or arrogance. Yeah. So these youngsters wanting this, and remember, what does Allah say? Yeah. فوق كل ذي علم عليم. Out of, whenever you find somebody who has knowledge, what is there? Someone who's more knowledgeable. Yeah. So whenever there's a bad guy who thinks he's bad, there's always somebody badder than you. Yeah. More tougher than you, more gangster than you, and so on. So very, very important, we just say to ourselves, I need to be humble and not be seeking those things that others are seeking. I'm seeking the hereafter and so on. So just a point of reflection on that, inshallah. The Prophet spoke about a man who lights a fire. And then what happens? Flies and moths. Giving us a similitude, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Flies and moths are rushing towards that fire. And then what does a man do? He tries to vigorously stop them from going towards the fire. He says, my similitude is the same. People rushing towards hellfire, and I'm vigorously trying to stop them from falling into it. It shows us the care and concern the Prophet ﷺ had for humanity. Yeah, humanity. That's another side point in terms of, look, sometimes we don't forget ourselves, the others. That okay, these people are, yeah, they're this, they're white, they're that color. Yeah. If you see somebody becoming a drug addict, yeah, go back to the Prophet ﷺ. He would not be happy to see those families in that way. Yeah? And that's your responsibility, it's your locality, here as well. That try and save everybody. But going back to the Prophet ﷺ, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, in this world, what did he do? He sacrificed. We have deen today because of his sacrifices, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, the hadith in Bukhari, when people will rush to, before the actually reckoning starts, and they will rush to different prophets and messengers and say, yeah, Adam, you're the first man that Allah made, intercede to Allah for us. And he would say, nafsi, nafsi. Yeah, no, you're the first messenger, sent to mankind, to humanity, intercede to Allah for us. Nafsi, nafsi. Musa, Isa, Ibrahim, and they come to the Prophet ﷺ, and he says, ummati, ummati, my people. So even on the day of judgment, when the great prophets and messengers are saying, look, too much for us, we're thinking about ourselves. What does he say? Ummati, ummati, which means my people, the Muslims and Muslims. So he's thinking about, i.e., his Muslim people, even on that day. Yeah? Of course, we know what he done in terms of the dunya. So what about us? There's a level of concern, a level of effort, a level of da'wah, a level of thinking concerning these youngsters who might be programs, institutions you youngsters could look into, because a lot is connected to also the prison system. That when they come out of prison, there's nothing to do. Some link with prisons, number one, and number two, providing them some sort of support or counseling and work when they come out. But there needs to be that concern. But also going back to the first point as well, non-Muslims. Nobody saw punishment to us, yeah, because we never tried to help their society. Yeah, we're part of their society. We're not going to help them. Yeah, I'm this ethnicity, they're that ethnicity. So it affected them. And then suddenly what? Starts affecting, yeah, they hook one of our youngsters. He gets involved. He hooks up other youngsters from his own community. And then what happens in London, or many parts of London, become, the Muslims become the drug dealers. So even helping them, showing concern for them, and also ourselves, inshallah. So number one, firstly, as we mentioned initially, Allah's given us judgment, isn't it? And the book of Allah Ta'ala was sent down to be used as a guidance and as a tool and as a judgment for us. And also, Quran, the Prophet's life, is a living reality. In the masjid we prayed, when we leave the masjid, we must leave the way we were inside the masjid. We have to live our Islam in our daily life, be that with neighbors, be that with Muslims, be that with non-Muslims, and so on. Mentioned on Jummah as well, in tackling Islamophobia, I said, when you're praying in the masjid, do you choose to pray who you want to be next to? No. You pray next to your Muslim brother or sister to a sister. But when you leave, how do we gather? Only my friends? Only my ethnic community? No. So what is inside the masjid needs to be outside the masjid. Muslim inside, Muslim outside, following the Quran inside, following the Quran and Sunnah outside too. But your point in terms of, yes, so we're judging right now. Somebody who does it, that's not a good person. Doesn't mean he cannot change or she cannot change. And it doesn't mean she or he cannot become better than the person who has not been doing it. And of course we have real examples. Malcolm X, barakallahu feekum for your time. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله والمسيح ابن مريم وما أمروا إلا ليعبدوا إلها واحدا لا إله إلا هو سبحانه عما يشركون يريدون أن يطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم